All right, everybody, it is just after 7 o'clock here, so I think we're going to go ahead and get this thing started. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brenna Leftwich. I am an academic and industry relations manager for Aspen Dental Management, also known as ADMI. We are the company that supports our Aspen Dental practices. I've been with the company about 2.5 years now. I work with dental schools and dental hygiene schools from the Midwest to the West Coast. So that's kind of my role within the company. I am joined here with two wonderful panelists. I will have them introduce themselves here in a moment. I just want to let you guys know that I have all the questions that you have submitted in advance through the Google form. There are some great questions, so thank you for sending those in. I have them on the screen to my right here, so if you guys see me looking over this way, I promise I'm paying attention. I don't have anything more exciting going on over here. Just reading the questions that you guys have submitted. There are some duplicates, some things that I lumped together just to keep everything organized and smooth and to make sure we get through all of the questions that you guys submitted. We also have a live Q&A. So if you guys have any questions that pop in your head, any follow-up questions, any topics that we're on, feel free to throw those in the live Q&A. You can also submit them anonymously. So if you prefer to do that, feel free to do so. And again, this is an Ask Me Anything session, guys. So please feel free to ask anything. The easy questions, the hard questions, that is what we are here for, and we will give you our best and honest answers. So with that being said, I think I will have our panelists introduce themselves. Jan, would you like to go first?
Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us tonight. My name is Jan LeBeau. I'm the Divisional Vice President of Hygiene Support for the Western United States for Aspen Dental. I always chuckle when I say I'm the Vice President of the West because Aspen defines the West of anything that's not on the Eastern Seaboard. So I think I have most of the United States. So I've been with Aspen a little over a year now. Prior to coming to Aspen, I came from another large DSO, Aspen being the second largest DSO in the world, actually. And I came from another third largest DSO, Pacific Dental Services, for those of you that may be curious, where I started their hygiene program and grew their hygiene program. When I came on board, we had about 100 hygienists. When I left, we employed or supported rather about 1,000 hygienists. I've been a hygienist about 36 years. I've had a varied career. I spent 15 years chairside as a hygienist before I left hygiene and went into first pharmaceutical sales. From pharmaceuticals, I went into medical devicing sales. And then from there, left the sales and marketing industry and went into the DSO industry. And that's where I've spent the last 12 or 13 years of my career. So yeah, so super glad to be here tonight. Ask us anything. But you know who's really going to answer your questions is going to be Amanda. She's one of our superstar hygienists in Oregon. So Amanda, introduce yourself.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Amanda. I'm a hygienist in Hillsboro, Oregon for Aspen. I've been with the company for almost 5 years. Before that, I worked in a couple other offices. I graduated from hygiene school in 2014. I have 3 kiddos and I'm very busy, but I love what I do. So please ask me anything you'd love to know. I'm happy to talk about.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I think Jan said it best. We have some rock star panelists on with us tonight. So we are super excited about that. And again, ask us anything, guys. We have the live Q&A in the bottom, so don't hold back with that. I think I am going to go ahead and get us started with the questions that you guys have submitted in advance. So we'll go ahead and get on with that. I'm going to start us off with a nice broad question here. Why did you choose Aspen Dental? So I know you both kind of talked about it in your introductions a little bit, but if you did not start with Aspen, if you've been with another DSO or private practice, you can talk about that experience as well. So you just want to talk about how you ended up with Aspen and why. Amanda, would you like to start with that one?
Sure. When I first interviewed with Aspen, I was working in an office that was about an hour's drive away from where I lived, and it was just getting to be too far. So I wanted to find something closer to home. And I ended up interviewing with a couple different companies and actually got offers from a few different companies. But Aspen kind of stuck out to me because they talked a lot about training and opportunities for growth and just the support that they provide their hygienists, which really kind of was exciting for me. And, speaking about hygiene as its own business within the practice and really trying to have that focus for patients and seeing the hygienist as a provider, it sounded really amazing. So I kind of went that direction, and I'm glad I did.
We are too. And Jan, I mean, you obviously have a little bit of a different background with working with so many different companies in a little bit of different fields. So, I mean, do you want to talk about what stuck out about Aspen to you and how you ended up here?
Sure. So being in the DSO world and in leadership role in the DSO world, all of us who run the hygiene departments for these DSOs, we come together once a year. And we usually come together to share ideas and to really network with each other. And frankly, I was always slightly jealous of Aspen Dental because Aspen Dental had an entire hygiene support team that supports the clinical chairside hygienist in the office. The Aspen Dental structure is every division has a VP of hygiene, then they have the dental directors of hygiene, and then they have the territory support managers of hygiene. So, and they're all hygienists. We're all hygienists who have worked chairside before. And it really warmed my heart to see the structure of Aspen and how they could support and gather around a new grad and really help that new grad grow and develop within the office. And it's this type of support in the DSO world is really unique to Aspen. In my previous employment at the DSO previous that I was with, we had nothing like that in that structure. So when the opportunity came up to come and work with Aspen, it was pretty exciting for me because I knew that I was going to be working with an amazing team of clinicians, supporting clinicians and growing and developing younger clinicians. It's an exciting opportunity. And I think Amanda alluded to that when she chose to come to Aspen as well. She said there's a lot of training and support. And there's also a lot of growth opportunity within the company. So if Amanda so chooses, she's got 3 kiddos, but if you can grow in chairside hygienist to the territory manager to the director and all the way up. As a matter of fact, many of our positions within Aspen in the ortho department, in learning and development and curriculum development, gosh, Amanda, recruiting, we've got hygienists in all kinds of positions within the company. So it's a great company and great opportunity for hygienists to develop and grow here. So that's what excites me.
Awesome. I mean, I think that definitely ties into a couple questions that we have had submitted previously. One of them was, how do you think Aspen Dental differentiates themselves from other DSOs? And we do keep bringing up the term DSO, which stands for Dental Support Organization or Dental Service Organization. And really quick, Jan, do you want to tap on what a DSO is?
Sure. So DSO, to Brenna's point, it stands for Dental Support Organization. And what a DSO is it's an organization that supports the business practices of the dental office. So there's different structures of DSOs. Within Aspen Dental, Aspen co-owns these offices with owner doctors. Aspen Dental, AMDI, Aspen, yeah, AMDI, that's the management side of the business. And the management side of the business works with the doctor who they co-own the office with. The doctor handles all the clinical side of the business. So the doctor and the hygienist's main responsibility within the business is to deliver the highest quality of care they can for the patients they serve. And AMDI, Aspen Dental, I keep saying it backwards, ADMI.
ADMI.
Get that up. ADMI, their primary responsibility is to run a viable business. So when you get the business people, the brilliance of the business mind with the clinicians, the brilliance of the clinicians coming together, ADMI sets the business practices, and the owner doctor sets the standard of care and the best practices for care for the patient. When you get those two coming together, you run a beautiful business. That's what a DSO is. People get mixed up. They think a DSO is corporate dentistry and you've got a corporation telling clinicians, doctors, and hygienists what to do. That is absolutely not the case. The doctor sets the clinical direction and sets the clinical standards and the best practices for the clinicians in the office. The DSO runs the business side of the practice. So Amanda, you work within the organization in the office. Can you speak to a little how that works for you in your world? Sorry, Brent, I want to hear Amanda's take on the DSO.
Yes, no, I was going to ask her the same thing and kind of ask the support that she gets from ADMI within the practice.
So I mean, like what you were talking about with the doctor and the hygienist kind of working on the clinical portion of that, I feel like all the doctors that I work with are owner doctor, and then the doctor that is actually, usually in our practice, because the doctor that owns our office also owns several others. So he's not always in the office, but I feel like we're all definitely part of the team. But the doctor is able to focus on being a doctor and treatment. And, I feel like I hear a lot of friends who work out in maybe private practices or different types of offices, and the doctor has to worry about all the business aspects as well. And it's not like they don't think about the business, but they don't have to worry about all the extra management stuff, I feel like, the hiring or, different HR, things like that. But we do have just so much support within the company. I know I can reach out for anything, whether it's the technical support or, just like you talked about our leadership teams. I have my territory hygiene manager, our regional hygiene manager, and I know that I can go to them with any question or concern or anything that I feel like I need help with, and they're going to be there for me to support me in that.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, there is so much growth within the company that you can't really provide in a private practice setting. We do have a couple questions on that, which I think I will get to in a minute here. But while we're on this topic, I kind of want to know, how do you guys feel Aspen Dental differentiates themselves from other DSOs or dental support organizations? Jan, you've come from another DSO, so do you want to answer this one?
I think from my experience with all of the other DSOs, Aspen truly provides the greatest amount of support for the clinicians they support. I mean, Amanda just said it. Whatever she needs, whether it be technical, clinical, HR support, a question on her 401k. I mean,
anything.
She's got it at her fingertips. I mean, Amanda can pick up the phone and call. I know this is probably a silly thing to say, what I'm going to say, but I mean it. I really, really mean it. I've never worked with such an amazing group of people than I have in the last year that I've been here at Aspen Dental as well. Everybody is just so willing to work with each other and help each other. So there's not any intimidation to pick up the phone and say, hey, can you help me with this? It truly is, it's a great culture. Aspen's got a great culture of support.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. And Amanda, do you have anything to add on to that?
I would absolutely second that. I will even recently just have reflected that it's so nice to know that I don't have to always have all the answers, and I'm not going to get in trouble for not knowing something. You know what I mean? Like, I can just pick up the phone or send a text message or an email to my support team and know that they're going to have my back and be there to help me. So I don't have, it's really helpful in growing as a clinician and really moving forward and understanding everything, or just, you know, knowing that I'm supported. So I think she really hit on that I feel like I work with an amazing group of people.
Awesome. Well, I think those are both great answers, and I would agree with that as well with everybody that I have worked with within the company. And we did have a live question submitted here about it's one of the COVID questions, and I want to let you guys know we had quite a few questions about COVID and kind of measures that we took submitted, and I did group all of those together. So I'm kind of saving those for the last like 10 or 15 minutes just to kind of keep it organized and running smoothly. So I promise I will get to that live question as soon as we kind of get to that point within this. But I do right now want to go over, so there are a lot of new grads or people in their final year of hygiene school on this. So I do want to talk a little bit about mentorship and onboarding for these guys. There were some questions submitted about that. So Amanda, do you want to talk about what the onboarding process was like for you and kind of what it was like your first couple weeks joining Aspen?
Yeah, I was shocked and thrilled that they offer 2 weeks of training with new hygienists, even just new to the company, not necessarily new out of school. And my office is considered a training office, so I do have a lot of hygienists come through periodically as positions open up in the area. Some are brand new, some have been in practice for 10 years, but you get to shadow. So I shadowed a hygienist for 2 weeks. The first week was just learning the computer system, the flow of the office. Second week, I was starting to see patients and just sort of get in the flow, but I was able to do that with the support of a hygienist who'd been with Aspen for years and could give me advice or, you know, just sort of say, hey, you should do this differently, or this was great, or whatever she was seeing that I was doing. And I've been able to do that for new hygienists with the company. And then they also have the training in Syracuse, the hygiene training, which I assume they're probably not doing right now, but
it's in Chicago now, and actually we're not doing it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
everything's got to be virtual.
I guess that was before they split everything. So that was great, because then you're able to have, you know, even more in-depth training into everything once you've kind of had a chance to get a feel for things and you know what questions you want answered or what you want to know more about and things like that.
Mm-hmm. And Jan, I mean, from the management side, do you have anything to add about our mentorship program for hygienists?
Sure. So Amanda's spot on in how she went through the program, but COVID changed everything. So we're doing it a little bit differently now, and it's pretty exciting how we're doing it. So just as Amanda said, we're still, you'll still be shadowing a mentor hygienist for a week and then working with a training hygienist in your office and with your territory hygiene manager. But now your very first day, you start into the hygiene onboarding program, Amanda. It's virtual. So your very first day, you go through 2 weeks of training where you're doing half day with us and doing virtual training, and then in your office half day, basically, for 2 weeks. So that's kind of how it's working now, spending a lot more time with your hygienist. Like Amanda's office is a training office, so you would go to Amanda's office and train with Amanda. So that's how we're doing it now. After the first of the year, we'll be going back to Chicago, but that training will be the next level training for our hygienists that are wanting to go to that next level in their career, perhaps become a lead hygienist or look at other opportunities within the organization, and they'll go to that training. So again, same thing, just a tremendous amount of training and development, both professional and personal development. If you want it, it's here for you.
Yeah, it's definitely a very guided process. So they're not just kind of going to throw you out there and feed you to the sharks, especially for the new grads who, fresh out of school, we know there's a little bit of like new grad anxiety when you are seeing your first patient. And speaking of, Amanda, we did have some questions about scheduling, and I know that's a big thing for people who are fresh out of school, is how much time they're going to have working on their patients. So is there anything you can add on with that, like the amount of time that they're allotted working with each patient, especially right out of school when they're still kind of in that learning process?
Yeah, so in my experience with the offices that I've been in and just conversations with our hygiene leadership team, it's, they have schedule times that they usually give for certain things. And I'm just going to kind of go with pre-COVID times because everything is a little bit crazy with that. But so let's say, for example, you're doing a half hour of SRT and they typically schedule it for an hour and a half or 2 quads or something like that. I know that you are able to say, hey, I was only able to get through this much, or looking at this patient, I feel like I need this much time. Or, maybe they only have 3 teeth and it's only going to be localized and you only need a little bit of time. But you can communicate that. And I know the office managers that I've worked with are really receptive to that, and they just want to make sure patients are taken care of and people are getting seen, in a timely manner, and everybody's kind of happy and things are flowing. So don't be afraid to say you need more time, or you don't have enough time for something, or you're afraid that you're getting behind, or, have those conversations. Because especially out of school, it's hard to know how much time you need for anything. You don't get 3 days to see prophy. It doesn't have to take that long anymore. So just kind of feel it out and see what you are able to do and what you're able to do well to make sure your patients are taken care of, because that really is the main focus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it sounds like you definitely say you have control over your schedule. If you feel like you need more time or less time, that's definitely something that you have control over. And Jan, is there anything that you would like to add on to that?
No, I think you guys both hit on it really well. We really encourage the hygienists to own their schedule and become very involved in their schedule, making sure appropriate times for the patients that they're seeing, and being active in, working with their schedule to make sure schedules are full also. If you've got the ability to go, hey, let's move this patient here and move this patient here so we can tuck this patient in, we want that type of involvement. You really are running your own clinical practice within a practice, and we want you involved.
Yes, no, I would definitely agree with that. I think hygienists are kind of the backbone of keeping a practice running. And speaking of that, would you like to talk a little bit about the relationship that you have with the doctor in your practice and how you go about treatment planning? So I think, Amanda, I feel like you both can touch on this a little bit, but do you want to start, Amanda?
Yeah, so when we're treatment planning, typically when we have a new patient in the office, I will go in and I'll do the perio charting and just talk with the patient about what I'm seeing in their mouth and the hygiene diagnosis and what they need for hygiene treatment. And then our doctor will go in and she'll do the exam and go over any restorative needs or anything else that the patient needs. But we have a really good relationship. So she kind of says, whatever you say, I agree, because we work together for long enough that she trusts my clinical judgment. And if I have questions, I'll always go to her and say, hey, I'm a little bit torn on this, or I'll say, it looks like this patient kind of has a lot going on. Do you mind doing their exam first and telling me if there do you think you feel like you would like to stay or do a partial bench, or then I can go and talk to them about what they need to keep those teeth in good shape to support that. So there's a lot of flexibility within it, but I feel like we do communicate really well, and she absolutely supports the hygiene business in our office 100%.
Awesome. And Jan, do you have anything to add on to that with the relationship between the hygienist and the doctor within a practice?
I think it's within the Aspen culture that the doctors really value the education of the hygienist and what the hygienist brings to the table. We work hard to ensure that both the doctors and the hygienist understand that they're a clinical team, and that the collaboration between the two of you is in the best interest of the patient. And I think by and large, our doctors have a tremendous amount of respect for the hygienist and really lean on the hygienist to do that perio assessment and help guide the doctor when it comes to discussing the treatment needs of the patient. So yeah, hygienists are, we are definitely, hygienists are clinicians that are shoulder to shoulder with their doctor in the comprehensive care of the patient. And it's the culture of Aspen. It's a great place to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely very, very important to have that quality relationship with your doctor. You both need to be working kind of cohesively in the practice and kind of have that flow in there with the patients coming in. So I think it's great that you have that within your practice, Amanda. And I would say that's pretty standard within all of our Aspen Dental practices as well. And to move on, we did have a live question just come in about pay structure. Someone wants to know just kind of how our payment is for our hygienists, and also are there guaranteed hours, and what is your benefits package? So I think, Jan, this sounds like a great question for you.
Well, it's a difficult question to answer in any detail, so I'll give it to you in a more of a broad sweep. We definitely, the hygienists are paid an hourly rate plus an incentive, and the incentive varies all over the board. So it really comes down to the hygienist works for the owner doctor, so it really comes down to the discussion between the hygienist and the owner doctor. Yes, when you're hired on and given X amount of hours that you'll be working X amount of hours unless something changes like COVID or something comes along. Right now, we've got more patients than we can handle. So if you're willing to work, we're willing to give you the hours. Yes. Mm-hmm. But on that note, we're also very, very flexible in that, and we're really looking for this flexibility, that we understand that by and large, hygienists are raising children. And right now we're in a weird time where you guys are going to be homeschooling and lots of different challenges are going on. So we're really having daily conversations around how do we flex your hours. And if you come to me and say, I only want to work Fridays and Saturdays because my husband's home Fridays and Saturdays and I have to homeschool our kids, then I'm going to tell you, great, let's get you in an office on Fridays and Saturdays. Or if you come and say, I want Monday through Friday, I'm going to say, great, let's find Monday through Friday for you. So we're offering a lot of flexibility with that as well. We have a full benefit package for those that are working full-time that includes paid vacation, healthcare, medical, dental, 401k, etc. So we've got, you know, sick days. We've got the full benefit package for you as well if you're a full-time employee with us. So I think we can meet almost everybody's needs, as long as we have a need. You know, if you're want to go into the Hillsborough office where Amanda is, maybe there's not a room for another hygienist. Find you an office down the street. You know, as long as we have an office and we have a need, I think we can meet your request and your needs.
Yeah, Amanda's like, the Hillsborough office is taken. Do you have anything to add?
We are very busy, so maybe I'll let somebody help out a little bit.
So, I was just going to say, we need to, you're the lead hygienist. We need to get you an associate. So we have a lead associate model where Amanda would be your mentor. You would come in and work under her wing, if you will, and work together. So we have a lot of offices with the lead associate model as well. So.
Yes, you could not ask for a better mentor than Amanda. But just on the topic of payment, so it is guaranteed hours, which I think is great. I know there's definitely a lot of places that if you don't have a patient scheduled or anything, they might just send you home, but we'll definitely find you something to do. So if those hours are on your schedule, you will be getting that payment. And then like Jan said, there is that incentive. So we always say there is a price floor, but there's no price ceiling. So you can always make more, but you will never make less than the money that you are guaranteed. And we did have another live question submitted. This one was asking about quotas, and I love this question. So Amanda, do you have any quotas that you need to meet within the office?
No. We have goals, but a quota sounds icky to me. I don't know.
I agree.
There are certain goals as far as trying to make sure that the patients who need access to care immediately have that access. And kind of what I hear repeated is, if you take care of the patients, you will take care of your business. And that's absolutely true. Because we do see a lot of patients who are high need, who have active infection, who need those SRP appointments, you know, right away, to try to start getting things back on track and get their mouth healthy and get them feeling better and get their bodies healthier. So we leave space for that in our schedules and are trying to get those patients in as soon as possible while still seeing our continuing care patients and those perio maintenance and those prophy patients. But you know, I'm never going to have somebody call me up and say, you didn't see this many of this type of patient or anything like that. You know, we're just going to make sure that we have that access to care available.
Yes, definitely. Do you have anything to add on to that, Jan?
Yeah, there's a difference between a quota and a goal, and we don't have quotas. And quotas are, you must achieve this, and we don't have that. We do have goals that say, hey, let's strive for this or that, you know, let's strive to get our same day starts. To Amanda's point, the patients that have infection in their mouth and need the scaling and reclaiming, let's strive to get a certain percentage of them started instead of scheduling them out. I mean, it's goals like that. And to Amanda's point, she's absolutely right. If you take care of your patient, the business will naturally be taken care of. So while we have goals, we do not have quotas.
Yes, and I would definitely agree. I get that question a lot when I do lunch and learns and, you know, things we were allowed to do before COVID, in-person events. And I do love getting that question because I do think it's a very common misconception. So I do definitely like to set the record straight a little bit with saying, you know, there are no quotas. You do what is right by your patient and your expert clinical opinion, and the rest will follow. So that's what I believe, and it seems like what our panelists are on board with as well. And again, we have another live question submitted, talking about, I see some open jobs that there's paid relocation, and would like us to touch on that a little bit. Do you have anything to say about that, Jan?
the paid relocation is dependent upon the division and where we're at, and it really comes down to the owner doctor and if they're willing to do that. So while some will have that available, it's not available across the board. So that's going to be on a very individual basis depending on the job and the location and what they need. So I really can't answer that in a great way. It's kind of on a one-off basis on what the owner doctor wants to do.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that brings up a great point. Is one of the things that is great about Aspen Dental is all of our practices are individually owned by doctors. So Aspen Dental Management, the company that I work for, doesn't own the practices. Our doctors do. So when we have questions like that, it is on a per office basis. So yes, there is paid relocation offered, but not at every single location. That's going to be very dependent on the practice that you are looking into. And that was an anonymous question, but if you reach out to me individually after this, I would be happy to look into that with you. So moving on here, another question we have is about the supplies and equipment in the office. Can you tell us, are you able to use whatever equipment and supplies that you would like, or just kind of how is that governed within the practice? Amanda, would you like to start this one?
Sure. So I have my own order budget. So we usually order every 2 weeks. So the hygiene order is going to be things like instruments that I need, whitening products, chlorhexidine, prescription toothpaste, MI paste, Prophy paste, all the things that I use to see my patients. And it's really flexible within that. I can choose. So we have like a formulary that Aspen uses, so it has to be on that, but it's pretty broad on what's available. They do have a preferred vendor or preferred products list that helps you as far as sometimes budgeting, or there'll be companies that we have relationships with where we can get maybe better prices on things as you're trying to get the most bang for your budget money there. But it's really just what I feel like I need within that. And even in special circumstances, there's if you need to go over for some reason, you can always reach out to your support hygiene support team and talk with them about that. But for the most part, I can just kind of pick what I need for each week to take care of everything.
Mm-hmm. Jan, do you have anything you would like to add?
No, I think Amanda pretty much hit it. We do have quality instrumentation, et cetera, on our formulary. I mean, it's either Hugh Freedy Instruments or American Eagle. So we're not using low-end instruments or anything. I mean, we've got the best of the best there for you. If you need it, you just have to order within your budget, and your budget will vary depending on your production. But I think the budget's pretty generous, right, Amanda? I mean, you really are able to get what you need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I will say I almost never use the entire budget for the month. I get what I need, and I don't feel like I'm holding back on that. I have all the instruments I need. I have everything I need for my patients, but it's definitely enough to get what I need for the practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the big thing is you guys have the clinical autonomy, and whatever it is that you use, you have the ability to get that. Working for a company, we have partnerships with companies like Henry Schein. Another one is Nobel. Those come to mind. So again, that's a big benefit to working for a large organization. We can get equipment and supplies in bulk. So obviously that's at a bit of a lower cost than, let's say, people could get out of private practice. So that is the route a lot of our hygienists and our doctors tend to take. But you do have the ability to use whatever supplies and equipment that you think is going to provide the best care to your patients. Is kind of what you guys would agree with?
Yes.
Awesome, great. So I think moving on here, We talked a little bit about growth before and ways that you can kind of move up and what the path is like or could be as a hygienist. So what opportunities within Aspen Dental do you have, both clinically and non-clinically, to kind of move and grow your career within Aspen? Would you like to start this one, Jan?
Sky's the limit as far as I'm concerned. I mean, so you start off as a chairside hygienist. Generally, you would go into an office where your next step is to become a lead hygienist or a trainer hygienist. And then from there, it's kind of, you can move into a territory management position where you're supporting, say, hygienists in 25 offices, and you travel on a daily basis to each office and educate and teach and coach. That's an opportunity. We've got opportunities within recruiting, for example. We've got opportunities within, on our specialty side within ortho. As a matter of fact, our COO, who reports to our CEO, Lori, is a former hygienist. And that's the second highest spot in the company. We've got hygienist and operations positions where they're regional managers, and they're on the they're working for ADMI on the operations side. We've got hygienists that are with learning and development and doing curriculum development and creating content to teach hygienists. We've got hygienists in those positions. Gosh, I mean, if you've got the will and the want to learn and the passion to go beyond chairside hygiene, we've got an opportunity for you. But most everybody starts at chairside hygiene. And that's where you want to start, frankly. And I spent 15 years chairside, and I'll be honest with you, I miss it. There's something incredibly wonderful about chairside hygiene too. You don't have to be going in different directions all the time. Chairside hygiene is very, very, very rewarding as well. So,
That's great, and I second all of that. Amanda, do you have anything you would like to add on?
I think just that there's definitely, you can see that is the culture at Aspen. They are trying to make sure that you have those opportunities, that you know it's available to you, or continue to develop your career. So even when I was new to the company, it was, what do you want? Where do you want to go? How can we help you get there? So that's been a constant in my time here with Aspen.
Yeah, I mean, I think the opportunities are definitely there for you if you want to stay chairside, if you want to maybe move to the business side, the recruitment side. There's definitely mobility and room for growth if that is what is interesting to you, and that is kind of what you see your career path going. So that was great, and I think moving on from that subject, we had another question submitted here, going in a little bit of a different direction. This is, other than cleanings, what type of treatment do you provide for your patients? And I think that can kind of tie into another question that was submitted here that just kind of asked what your average day-to-day was like in the office. So again, what type of treatments do you do, and what is your average day-to-day like? Amanda, do you want to take that one?
Yeah. So as far as treatments, we do different types of hygiene treatments depending on what the patient's needs. So SRP, gingivitis treatment, pro-feed, periodic maintenance. And then we do also have in-office whitening, take-home whitening. There's a lot of adjuncts that we have available for patient needs, like I mentioned, MI paste and toothpaste, chlorhexidine, Oral-B toothbrushes, all those kinds of things. We also, day to day, it's going to be seeing a variety of patients. So I will have usually at least a couple of patients who do have active infection that we're trying to treat to get that taken care of for them. I'll have my continuing care patients, my recalls. a few exams maybe for the doctor. We try to space those out a little bit so it's not too overwhelming for her or myself. And then I do hop in to see new patients. So it can seem a little intimidating at first. It's definitely a full schedule. I don't feel like I'm sitting around, you know, bored or waiting for anything to do, that's for sure. But it's absolutely manageable. Like I talked about a little bit before with the, you know, time allotments for patients and things like that. I don't ever feel like, you know, I have time to go to the restroom if I need to or take a drink of water.
That's great. So you mentioned seeing new patients, and I did have a question here that was, what is the new patient exam like, and how do you manage that in between scheduled patients? So do you want to elaborate on that a little bit, Amanda?
Sure. So the new patient exam, you know, we do a pano and a full series of x-rays that one of our dental assistants will take. Then they will usually take the patient back and do what we call a dental health scan, which is just the 3D imaging of the mouth so the patient can see what's happening and really kind of look at that and manipulate that and pinpoint anything that they have questions about. Then either I or the doctor will go in. So let's say if I go in first, I'll do the perio charting. And how it usually ends up working in our office is that is timed so that I am finishing up with a patient. So maybe I have a prophy that, you know, I'm finishing up with and then I can go into the new patient. Or if I have a patient who's going to need the exam, I'll leave the room to do my new patient exam while the doctor comes into my room. So it's really about kind of mapping that out with our assistants and figuring out what the best time to break away for those exams is. And then the doctor will go in and she'll do her part of the exam, go over everything with the patient, and then they will go up front to talk with our office manager and do a consult to kind of break everything down, go over the financial aspect and schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think you just about covered everything with that. Do you have anything to add, Jan?
That's a comprehensive exam.
Yep, no, she nailed it. Oh, we did have a follow-up question with that. Do you do laser treatment for perio, Amanda?
No, we do not do laser treatment. So that's something that we would refer if a patient was wanting that, or if the doctor felt like that was the best option for them, we can refer them out, but we don't do that in our office. Okay,
and Jan, you might know this, is that office specific, or is that Aspen wide?
Well, this is an interesting question. In my previous organization, that's what I was brought in to do. I was brought in to launch a laser program. So I'm a laser certified instructor with the Academy of Laser Dentistry. And lasers are something that our hygienists are very interested in here at Aspen, but we're still trying to figure out a little bit on how we could bring that to Aspen. And there's a lot of unknown questions relative to third-party payers on it right now. So I can't promise that we will adopt lasers into the organization, but we are definitely taking a real hard look at it right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like having you on board might be a step in that direction if you're the expert on the subject. So moving on here, I want to touch on this a little bit. I know we're getting to near the end of this, but I do love this subject. So somebody asked here, what is the culture and team environment like within your company and within your practice? So in my opinion, I think it's kind of unparalleled. Whenever people ask me that in my presentations, I always say it's kind of one of the big differentiators between us and other companies is our culture. I don't know if you guys agree. Would you like to start with this, Jan?
It's what attracted me to Aspen is absolutely the culture. And I said it earlier, and I really, truly mean it. In my entire dental career, 40 years, I was a dental assistant before I was a hygienist. I've never worked with a greater group of people. And I think that that's a culture that comes from the top down. It's a organization that is based on supporting each other and being open to each other. And I mean, I don't know what to say other than it's just a great culture.
Mm-hmm. Amanda, what about you?
I absolutely agree 100%. It's nice to wake up in the morning and maybe I don't feel like getting out of bed, but at least I know when I go to work, I'm going to enjoy the people that I spend all day with. Or, you know, in previous, even before I was in the dental field, you know, you get the higher ups, the big bosses coming through. It's a little bit scary, but my regional manager walks through the door and it's, hey, how is your daughter? And, you know, I'm happy to see her. So I feel like we do get that culture within the company for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we do so many things. We have our annual leadership retreat. We have vibe sessions. I know they do a lot of fun competitions between our offices. We have, you know, our annual day of service. We work with veterans. We really pride ourselves on our culture within Aspen. So that's one thing that I will 100% like fight to the death for, is I say we just have the best, most unparalleled culture. And I think we like to make a place people want to go to work, not just be like they have to go to work. So I am 100% on board with our culture. And it is about 7:55. So as promised, I said we would kind of get into the COVID questions here at the end. I know that is everyone's favorite topic these days. So just kind of going over how Aspen Dental handled COVID. Amanda, would you like to elaborate on if you've had any shortage of PPE within your office throughout COVID?
Yeah, so I don't, since I've been back, because I was furloughed for about 7 weeks. Initially in Oregon, they closed down anything medical for, it was only emergency treatment, so I was out, which I think definitely gave them enough time to get what they needed, because we haven't been short on anything. And when we were a little bit worried that we were going to be getting short on things, and we were reaching out to whoever we needed to reach out to, it was being reassured that we had what we needed coming and we were not going to run out. We would not be asked to work without what we needed to be safe and protect everybody. I work right next to a urgent care, so it was really easy to go over and get my N95 tested. We've got a room in the back full of gowns and masks and head covers and shoe covers and shields and everything else. So initially, you know, it was kind of, we would get close to needing more and then more supplies would come in. And now at this point, we just got our stockpile and we're pulling from that, which is great. So definitely not a shortage.
Yeah, and I mean, I will elaborate on that a little bit. Again, that's one of those things, working for a large organization can really benefit you. I know I mentioned our partnership with Henry Schein earlier. I read somewhere like we were the second largest purchaser of PPE, like second to the US government during this time. So I definitely don't think we have had a PPE shortage in any of our offices. Do you have anything to add, Jan?
I think the lack of PPE shortage can be attributed to the brilliance of our executive management. They truly got out ahead of this and projected that this was going to happen and that we were going to potentially end up in a bad situation with COVID. And they got a hold of PPE before anybody else was even beginning to think about getting PPE. And I think that that's what staved off this potential. I mean, there's a global shortage of PPE, but we're just fine. And I think it was because our procurement department and the brilliance of our executive leadership saw it coming and got out ahead of it. And we got stockpiled on PPE before the world ran out of it.
Yeah, and I know, Amanda, you mentioned being furloughed for a few weeks. A couple of these questions were, did your office have to shut down temporarily? And did you have to let go of any employees? I know being shut down was definitely on a per state basis. A lot of places had orders from the governor. But kind of how did your office have to go about that?
So in our office, in Oregon, it was mandated by the governor. So our office was open, but it was only open for emergency patients. So we had doctors and some office managers and some dental assistants that were still working during that shutdown. And then everybody else was temporarily furloughed. Nobody that I know of in the offices that are in my area that I talked to, I don't think we had anybody that was permanently let go or anything like that. Everybody that I know has come back. So to my knowledge, there were no permanent layoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think that kind of ties into what Jan said about our company kind of getting ahead of this. I know being furloughed isn't obviously the most ideal situation, but I think that is what kind of prevented our company from having to let go of employees. Do you have anything to add, Jan?
No, I mean, we all went through the furlough. I was part of the furlough as well. Mm-hmm. But we still kept a task force of leadership because we had offices open for emergency patients. The one thing about Aspen was there was constant communication for all of us. So we all, through the entire furlough process, we knew exactly what was going on and had our finger on the pulse, all of us, right down to the hygienist at the office level. So we got through it, and we got through it quickly, and we came back strong. And I don't believe we let anybody go at the office level. I think we had people that left, they retired. We've had hygienists that have, my age perhaps, that retired, said, oh, I'm not dealing with COVID and everything else, and they retired. But other than that, I mean, by and large, I mean, everybody came back.
Mm-hmm. So what types of protocols and policies have now been put into place to help protect staff and patients from COVID within your office? So Amanda, what kind of changes have you made within the practice since returning from the furlough?
So, like a lot of medical offices, we're taking temperatures. We have all those screening questions for staff as well as patients. So before even any staff goes into the back, we have to have our temperature taken. We have to answer those questions. Patients will typically wait outside or in their car until we call them in for an appointment. We're really limiting some of those aerosol producing procedures when possible, and then there's extra equipment that they've gotten into the office for hygienists when that's not possible, because like I said, we have SRPs, I have to get that Cavitron out, but we have the high speed evacuation. Mine is kind of like a dry shield unit, so that prevents those aerosols from going out into the air. It just sucks them out right away. Before those came in, I was actually had assistants working with me anytime I needed to use that equipment, so that we could make sure we were keeping everybody safe, and we are all geared up for that. It is hot in our office, and you've got the equipment on, and it's freezing when you've got it off because we've got the air turned up. But it's even our doctors watching to make sure everybody's being really careful, remembering all these new policies and procedures that are in place. But we talk about it daily, and we're making sure that we're doing everything that we can to keep our staff and our patients safe.
Mm-hmm. And anything from you, Jan, on that subject?
Careful to be following the CDC guidelines and the state boards, each state board guidelines, and it sounds like it's translating down. I mean, Amanda is at the office level, and we've got N95s. We're doing fit tests with the N95s and aerosol protection and screening for both employees and patients. So yeah. And Amanda, I'm sorry. I know all of that equipment is unbearable at times. It's keeping everybody safe.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting used to it. It's okay.
Yes, hopefully it doesn't have to last too much longer. But I mean, just speaking with a lot of doctors and with a lot of hygienists within our company lately, I think a lot of them have touched on how they really discovered the value more so than before of working for a company and really having that support during this pandemic. I think there were a lot of private practices and some other DSOs that didn't obviously have that support in a situation like this that nobody was really prepared for. So I think, like I said, in this type of situation, you do really realize the value of having an entire company behind you, helping you and guiding you through a pandemic like this. But it is about 8 o'clock, so I think I'm going to end here on one more question. And Jan, I did want to say, somebody wrote in the Q&A, congratulations to your daughter. For those of you who were
her dental hygiene license today in the state of Oregon. So
it was anonymous, so I don't know who submitted it, but they congratulated.
Thank you for that.
But so our final question for tonight is just going to be, what advice do you have for our student hygienists that are graduating this year and going to be out looking for jobs? Amanda, do you want to start?
Yeah, so I think my my advice is really ask questions. Think of what you need to feel comfortable or what you want to know, and don't be afraid to ask about that, because you're not expected to know everything when you're brand new out looking for a position. So find out what training they offer, what support there is for a new hygienist coming in, or who you go to for help when you need it, because you do need that support system to help you. I mean, I need it now even. It's so important to know where you can turn for those answers. So ask questions, be picky.
Mm-hmm. Jan, anything?
I couldn't agree more with Amanda. Don't think of it as if you are going for an interview. Think of it as you are going to interview them. Mm-hmm. Especially if you come into our world, we'd love it if you came in and interviewed us, because it's just as important for us to make sure that you're a good fit and you're happy as it is for you to make sure we're a good fit and we're happy working with each other. So you definitely want to interview your prospective employer. And ask a lot of questions. Ask a lot of questions.
Yes, definitely. I would agree with all of that. I think the big thing is explore your options. Get in, shadow offices, shadow private practice, other DSOs. With Aspen, we would love to have you if this is the right fit. If it's not, it's not for everybody. But if especially after this webinar, it's something that you're interested in, I would love to talk with you more. But like they said, go out, ask questions, explore your options, and you will find exactly what works best for you. So just to kind of close this thing out here, if anyone has any more questions, you can submit that in the live Q&A right now. But if not, I really do appreciate all of you logging in, and a big, round of applause for our panelists. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I really enjoyed having both of you on here and, providing a clinical and a different perspective to all of our viewers and registrants on this tonight. But I hope everybody enjoys their evening. I will be reaching out via email tonight and following up. And sending out the link to this webinar if you want to go back and look at it. But again, thank you guys for joining us tonight. Feel free to reach out. I know Jan and Amanda would both be happy to answer any questions and talk one-on-one with you if that is something that you would like to do. So again, good night, everybody. I hope everyone enjoys their evening.
Thanks, Brenna.
Yes, thank you guys.
Thank you
Bye.
so much. Bye.